Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on After GMS. It's a pleasure to see you on our stream right now. There's a lot of comments already happening about one of our big topics, so we'll jump into that in just a little bit. Want to introduce everybody. I'm Tracy McCain. Taran Kirksey is our meteorologist. He's working from home, and Megan Malaris is also working from home. So, Taran, we have another hot day for June, which I guess, you know, it's normal.
Yeah, pretty typical for this time of the year. We have the heat. We had a cold front move through yesterday, so the humidity is just a tiny bit lower today. All in all, though, it's going to be a typical summer day with a chance of an isolated pop-up shower or thunderstorm. I think at highest, the rain chance at 30%, but most of us are going to stay completely dry today. Probably see a decent amount of sunshine as well. We'll drop the rain chance down to 20% for Thursday. And then we'll keep things generally dry through the weekend before rain chances really go up early next week. Monday is kind of the day that I'm eyeing right now for their best chance of rain. But at the moment, I'm going to keep the rain chance at around 30%. But stay tuned. We'll keep you updated on that as we get a little bit closer to that point. That's a quick look at your forecast.
All right, so there are about 300 people on the live stream right now, all ready to weigh in on this first conversation. And we're going to get it started. Governor Roy Cooper is addressing the state today at 3 o'clock. He could issue a mandatory requirement on face coverings. He's hinted to that in the past. He could announce his decision on phase 3. Perhaps he'll make a decision on both. So I asked you on Facebook, what do you think the governor will say today in his 3 o'clock news conference? Here's what you're saying. Edgar Stadler writes, please let him open North Carolina. I will wear a face mask if mandatory to help this happen now. Monique Austin says, no phase 3, go back to phase 1. Jennifer McCollum Sizemore says, just open everything back up at full capacity. And Gracie Leith wrote in saying, I will agree with whatever our governor says. He is looking out for us. People need to take this seriously. All right, so we're asking you this morning, what do you think the governor will announce today? He is set to say something at 3 o'clock. We've noticed a spike in our area in hospitalizations. We'll talk to Megan about the numbers in just a second, but we want you to drop your comments in the link below, and then I will read them as we go along. So, Megan, I mentioned that you have more on the numbers, and you've been tracking this since the very beginning, since you came back from maternity leave. So what do the numbers say?
Yeah. Well, a couple key metrics that Governor Cooper and the COVID-19 task force are looking at are the percent of cases, of tests rather, that are positive. And lately, we've seen a slight uptick in those percent positives, about 10% yesterday, compared to an 8% average last week. The task force is also going to look at hospitalizations, which are not affected by testing. Those stand independently from testing. And we had a record high number of hospitalizations yesterday with 915. There is more to that number, and I'll break that down in our headlines in a few minutes. The third key metric that state leaders are considering in deciding whether to reopen the state is new cases by day. We've seen those increase steadily. They had dipped slightly yesterday to below 1,000, which was a good sign. But we look at the 14-day moving average. Which direction are they trending? And unfortunately, that moving average for new daily cases is also going up. So I'm sure that state leaders are going to keep all of this in mind in making their decision potentially, as we heard Tracy mentioned at the governor's news conference, as soon as 3 o'clock today. As I said yesterday, would not be surprised if there were maybe a modified phase 3 or phase 2.5 and allowing some of these other businesses to reopen with restrictions, but not going full steam ahead with the original phase 3 as it was laid out.
Yeah, and Crystal Lynn Presley offered up another thing that he could talk about the schools and what will happen. Will the decision be to reopen them, and how will they reopen them? Will they go to an online approach for this school year? So there's a lot that he could discuss. Taran, I know whatever he says, there's going to be some people who are all for it, and there's going to be some people who don't like it. So he's kind of in a tough spot, but, you know, he's got to make a decision, right?
Yeah, you know, pretty much anybody that has the position to make these decisions in any state in the union definitely is in a tough position, because obviously, you know, as the old saying goes, you can't please everyone. You know, the hope is, and the belief, at least in my opinion, is that, you know, decisions are being made first and foremost based on the data. Even in life, half the things, well, actually not half, most of the things that I do on a daily basis aren't necessarily things I enjoy, but they're data driven and it makes sense for just the overall kind of plan that I have for my life. And so, as the old saying goes, you have to begin with the end in mind, and hopefully, whatever decisions are made will help us get to the other side of this sooner rather than later. But, we'll have to kind of see how things shake out. And at the end of the day, on an individual level, you have to try to just make the best of whatever situation, comes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get to some of the comments here. We'll begin with Lions Angie, who says, no, I don't think so. I don't see us going into phase 3. Probably will stay at phase 2 and be required to wear a mask. We are hearing from, I have to scroll down here, Larry Lambert, who said, won't be long before Cooper will be voted out. John McPherson says, Cooper is just going to veto it like I don't even know if I can say this, but it says the person he is. Then we heard from Crystal, who said that, we asked about the schools opening up. Joni James, well, she wants to see your baby, Megan. This is how randomly I'm reading these. They're just kind of coming in, so that's how I'm reading them. Jason Hutchins says, think we'll go into phase 3, but will require a mask. Lucille wants to leave it like it is. Jerry DeHart says he needs to go ahead and let more places open because places are starting to open whether he wants them to or not. That's true. Jill Crutchfield is anxiously awaiting. Ann Whitehead said he needs to go to phase 3. We have loved ones in jail and prison that haven't had visits since March. Barbara says phase 3 with a mask. And let's see. Sandra says it needs to remain closed. He is doing what's best for our state. Regardless of how he moves, there will always be someone to agree and disagree. And we'll take one here from Dan Webster, who says, I'm staying at home. Chatham County is full of COVID and going up in the numbers. So there are obviously tons of more responses, and obviously tried to read them. Well, I did read them as they came in, but tried to get both sides here. But a lot of people still kind of upset with that idea of wearing a mandatory mask. Maybe not because it's a mask, but because it would be mandatory, which would mean that, it is a requirement, which could face a penalty. I know when Greensboro put it in order yesterday, we were like, well, how are they going to enforce it? And is it really something that they can fine you for? The Greensboro Police Department says, yeah, they can charge you with a misdemeanor. So not sure that that would be on your permanent record or anything like that, but nobody wants to have to go to court and deal with something like that. So, we'll see what happens. Carol also mentioned that the nursing home patients need to see their families with precautions in place. So there are a lot of different things at play here. And then we start talking about sports and, high school sports. They begin training in July, and then we think about the Panthers, and we want to see them back on the field in the fall. So the RNC already pulled out of Charlotte, as well as the NASCAR All-Star race. So he's got a lot of pressure here, not just from voters, but also from big businesses, big sports agencies. It will see what happens. Did you guys even think about the whole sports angle, Tarian?
Yeah, that's certainly been the talk of at least the talk of our household. My wife and I are really big college football fans, and we've been kind of just watching the landscape as far as a lot of these the schools are doing. Many of them are doing weekly testing of the football athletes at least, and there are cases springing up all over the place. And so I think college, at least looks to me, I mean, I'm just a weather guy, so my opinion is worth about this much, but it looks to me as though maybe the college football season is in doubt. So hopefully things can work out where we can have that, because honestly, and sometimes I run my mouth too much, but I'm about to do it again. I apologize in advance. But sports seems to be one of those things where people can unite behind something, and it doesn't matter, who, you support politically, you're there for your team. You're sitting next to somebody that might be voting, differently than you or whatever, but it doesn't matter. You all have this shared experience that if you win the game, it's a positive shared experience. If you lose, you can be sad together. And it's something that probably, would be helpful for, the country at this time. But at the same time, the health of the athletes is most important. So, we'll have to just kind of see how things shake out.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely make great points, and I know that you are, what you say, just a meteorologist, but you are, a part of our state. You are a voter. Everybody has the right to their opinions, whether someone supports them or not. This is a safe space where we can all share what we're thinking and, what we're feeling, and, without judgment. So, this is why we have these conversations on the web and not on TV. All right, Megan, before we get to your morning headlines, I was just handed a piece of paper here with some information, and it seems very important, so I'm going to go ahead and read it now. The Davidson County Sheriff's Office says there is a 10-year-old boy who is missing, and there's a silver alert now issued for him. Gabriel Wade Newton is his name. Apparently, he went missing early this morning. He's believed to have some type of cognitive impairment. Again, he's 10 years old, Davidson County, Gabriel Wade Newton. According to the release, he's described 4'8", 78 pounds. He has short brown hair and blue eyes. They did not release a picture, so it's going to be hard to, really describe him accurately here. But we do know he's 10 years old, has some type of cognitive impairment, and his name is Gabriel Wade Newton. If you have any information, please call the Davidson County Sheriff's Office. That number is 336-242-2105. All right, Megan, let's get started with the morning headlines.
All right, yes, we certainly hope Gabriel comes home safely soon. Some alarming new COVID-19 numbers out of our state, but it's important to give those numbers context. I mentioned the record hospitalization day yesterday with 915 people in North Carolina hospitals. 45 higher than the day prior. But let's give that number some perspective here. It's really more of a complete picture of this state. Monday, just about 70% of hospitals were reporting numbers for their patients. But yesterday, Tuesday, 91% of hospitals reported that data to the state health department. So more reporting obviously means more patients as far as the numbers are concerned. It's also important to look at hospital bed capacity. Among inpatient beds statewide, 3/4 of them are full. That's up about 5% from a month ago. 77% of ICU beds are full, which is down from a percentage point last month. Finally, 29% of ventilators are being used. That is up 5% from a month ago. We've learned another Greensboro restaurant is closing its doors permanently. Southern Lights Bistro posted on its Facebook page it will not reopen. The restaurant did not explain why, but thanked all customers, coworkers, and vendors for the business over the years. Cone Health is operating at full service yet again. All office visits, tests, and procedures that were delayed due to the COVID pandemic will start up again. Cone Health is taking precautions like putting an acrylic sheet between employees and patients. There are also going to be fewer waiting chairs and lobbies. Everyone who enters is required to wear a mask, and caregivers will have face shields. Healthcare workers will also receive screenings every day, and patients will get COVID-19 tests before being admitted to the hospital or for surgery.
Well, there are more than 2 million coronavirus infections nationwide, 120,000 deaths, most of those in New York City. Yesterday, Dr. Anthony Fauci testified on Capitol Hill about the White House's response to the pandemic. Fauci says there are multiple vaccines being researched and tested right now, and he expects one of those vaccines will go into phase 3 of the study in July. Dr. Fauci adds the next couple of weeks will be important as states work to reopen and contain the virus's spread. Well, beachgoers, a warning for you, especially in Myrtle Beach. We're told that it is now a hot spot for coronavirus. The number of cases there jumped from 300 at the start of the June month to now nearly 1,600, and it's now just the end of the month. That includes not only just county residents, but visitors. So we're hearing that people who visited Myrtle Beach came back with coronavirus from as far away states as Ohio and Pennsylvania.
All right, well, let's get to this top headline now. Winston-Salem Pools reopening. If you're looking to cool off, by some water this summer. You won't have to go all the way to the beach. Soon you'll be able to take a dip in the public pools in Winston-Salem. Winston-Salem Parks and Rec announced the Bolton Kimberly Park, Polo, and Parkland pools will open starting July 1st. Children will also get to enjoy splash pads at Hathaway, Little Creek, Nelson Malloy, Reynolds, Rupert Bell, and Sedge Garden. At all of these pools, social distancing will be required. Speaking of pools, we have a good week for some pool time this week weather-wise. Really hot and sticky. I'm sure a lot of you are wanting to jump in. I love summer. It's my favorite season. I got married in the summertime. So let's bring in our meteorologist, Trent Kirksey, in on this conversation. Is this record-breaking heat for this year? Have we topped 90 yet, or are we almost there?
I don't believe we've been to 90 yet so far this year, and it's pretty late in the season at this point to have not reached the 90-degree mark yet. It's almost just a matter of time. It's going to happen eventually. It looks like our next chance of that happening probably over the weekend. Not to say that we couldn't see that happen today or maybe Friday, but really I think the weekend will be our next chance of getting close to 90. Either way, it's going to be hot. High temperatures this time of year usually average the upper 80s. We're going to be there most of the next 7 days, although tomorrow we might be a little bit lower, mid 80s. But there are some signs, if you can believe it or not, that we might have another cool down right around the 4th of July. Still too soon to really kind of jump on board with that possibility, but it's something that we're watching, so we'll kind of have to see what happens. We had that big cool down last week. This week a whole lot warmer. This is pretty typical weather for June standards for sure.
Yeah, and Tracy, what about you? Would you be comfortable going to a pool even? I know you have young children. They're probably anxious to splash around a little bit this summer. I know they've liked the splash pads in the past. What are your feelings on going around the water?
Well, we have adapted or adjusted our, experiences to bringing them closer to the home. So now we have a little pool at the house, and we have our own playground equipment, and we have, activities for the kids where they can, get in their little cars and ride around the house. They are not missing out on anything, which is how I wanted it from the very beginning. I really wanted things to appear normal to them. Yes, the parks are closed. The swing sets, are not operational right now. As a matter of fact, there's like tape around like all of the playgrounds. So, I don't want them to go to a park and see it and be like, what's going on? So I just, outfitted the house. I mean, we had most of the stuff already. So they are going to stay away from the pool for right now, as I will too. We have a pool in our neighborhood. We're not going to go. It is open, and we do know that there are safety measures in place, but I'm loving the home life. And it doesn't even, if the state completely reopens tomorrow or today at 3 o'clock as it were, I would be fine with that. I would also be fine with staying home. I mean, it's kind of one of those things, you make your personal adjustments, you do what is best for you and your family, and then you kind of just see the next day, stay as healthy as you can. But
yeah,
that's me. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. And let's get to some comments here. Carol says humidity is one reason for this misery right now. It just feels hotter than it is. I'm sure Turan can attest to that. We also heard from Jason, who said he feels like he's melting like a toasted cheese. All right, that's one way to describe this weather. Catherine has a question for Turan, or more a comment that I think could be a question worth answering here. We've talked about it on the Good Morning Show. She says, please warn those with breathing issues about the Saharan dust cloud approaching. So Turan, do you mind mentioning one more time what the deal is with this dust coming this weekend?
Yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah, this happens regularly, that we have dust that is kind of blown off of the Sahara Desert. It goes over the Atlantic, kind of being pushed our way by the trade winds that move from east towards the west. And again, it happens all the time, but I mean, this time the dust is particularly dense in some spots. I'm going to open up one of my graphics here. Give me just a second, kind of do this on the fly here. So let's go on to where we usually do the 7-day forecast, and I can talk about that right now. It should be loading up. There it is right there. And we've already had one plume of dust already make it to the Gulf of Mexico. It's actually kind of along the Gulf Coast right now. As I advance the map here, you see that The dust is trying to head our way as we go from Friday into Saturday. It might be one round of dust, and then we'll see another one kind of move in as we go from Sunday on into Monday. So if you do have breathing problems, if dust kind of really affects you, then yeah, as we go from Friday on through, let's say, Monday or so, you're going to want to kind of watch out for that and maybe take some extra precautions. But you see what happens. It kind of clears out as we go into Tuesday, and cold front's going to move in. That's going to increase our rain chances, and it also is going to clear that dust on out. So there you go. Again, I know it's really taken off on social media, but this is not an unusual thing to have Saharan dust move in. We call it there's a weather product that we look at, a weather model that we look at called the Saharan air layer. And the good news is that Saharan dust dries out the air, which makes it hard for tropical systems to form. So when you have all that dust over the central Atlantic, tropical systems can't form where that dust is at. And it's really shutting things down for now. We're not expecting any tropical systems, at least not in that part of the ocean, anytime in the short term.
I have been obsessed with this since I woke up this morning, and literally my timeline was flooded with information about this Saharan sand. And I'm like, what, here? And then, first thing I text Turan, I'm like, have you heard about this? What is it? And he's like, yeah, it happens here all the time. I'm like, I've never seen it. So I wonder if the reason why it's taking off steam now is because of all the mask requirements, and people are, saying, well, this is why you're going to need to wear a mask this weekend, because it could be harmful for you to breathe this stuff in. I haven't seen that in that warning necessarily in North Carolina, but that warning was issued in Texas and some other southern states like Louisiana, where maybe it's supposed to be a little bit worse than here. But it's just really taken off. And I've been bugging you about it all morning, Turan, because I am obsessed. Am I going to see it? Will I actually see sand?
Yeah, you probably will. I mean, you'll probably notice more of a haze to the atmosphere. And if things line up just right, a lot of times when you have extra dust or extra particles or particulates, I guess is the better term to use, in the atmosphere, the sunsets and the sunrises can be a little bit more spectacular, if you want to say that. So you could have some more colors being seen in the sky with that dust around. So, as with everything else in life, I like to say this, you have good and bad in everything. And so the dust is certainly bad if you have breathing problems. The air quality is not going to be great over the weekend, but, you might see some nice views out the window, especially if you're up early in the morning, or if you're up right around sunset as well. So again, it's a thing that happens all the time, just like the polar vortex. That wasn't a new thing when that took off. I don't know where that came from. It's been talked about since the 50s and 60s, but hey, it became a thing a few years ago. That's common. The Saharan dust is a fairly common thing as well. Although, again, this round does appear to be a little more dense than it usually is most of the time.
Right. I do feel better because people are commenting I never heard about it either. This is new to me. So I feel a little bit better that I'm not just, aloof and not seeing or noticing things like that. All right. So Turan, take us here, 7-day forecast, and then we'll part ways with everyone.
All right, we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up then. A chance of a couple of pop-up showers and storms today into tomorrow. We're mainly dry through the weekend. And again, it's going to be kind of a dusty, hazy weekend at times. And then cold front moves through Monday into Tuesday. That should bring us a decent chance of showers and storms. And that'll clear out the dust as well. So there you go.
Back to the dust. And the dolly that's kind of churning isn't going to be an issue either.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Tropical storm Dolly.
Oh yeah, Dolly's moving away.
It's
off the coast of Canada at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
We're
great.
good.
On to eat. All right. Thanks so much for joining us here on After GMS. We'll have more conversations tomorrow for you, and that's when we'll know what the governor has decided for this state. Again, his announcement's coming today at 3. Who knows what will be said, but we will be on top of it, and we'll keep you updated on WFMYnews2.com. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.